In the quiet stretches of prehistory, long before cities rose or written words traced the paths of human thought, there existed a world defined by darkness. Nights were longer, colder, and more unforgiving than anything most of us could imagine today. The soft hum of electricity, the glow of a lamp, even the warmth of a simple fireplace, all of these comforts were absent. Early humans faced a reality dictated entirely by the sun and the unpredictable forces of nature. They hunted, they gathered, and they moved in careful patterns, guided by instinct, the rhythm of seasons, and the fragile light of the occasional flame. It was in this ancient, shadowed world that one of humanity's most enduring myths quietly took shape, the legend of the Firebringer. The Firebringer, in its many forms across cultures and continents, represents far more than the act of creating or stealing fire. It is a symbol of survival, of courage, of the daring leap from helplessness into mastery over the environment. To the ancient mind, fire was not merely warmth or light, it was life itself, a mysterious, almost sacred force that could not be tamed easily. One spark could illuminate the darkness, cook the food that nourished the body, and drive away the creatures of the night that lurked silently beyond the circle of light. Yet, that same spark could turn into a roaring blaze, consuming shelter, food, and sometimes life itself. In the story of the Firebringer, we find the delicate tension between benefit and danger, gift and responsibility, a lesson wrapped in wonder, preserved for millennia in myths, stories, and rituals. Tonight, as we begin this journey, imagine yourself stepping into that ancient world. Picture the cold pressing against your skin, the shadows of towering trees shifting in the wind, and the distant roar of a predator echoing in the night. Humans of that time lived on the edge of uncertainty, yet they were also curious, clever, and increasingly aware of the extraordinary gifts that nature occasionally bestowed upon them. Among those gifts, fire shone brightest, not only for its practical uses, but for the sense of awe it inspired. Each flickering flame told a story, whispered secrets of the natural world, and promised safety in the vast darkness. And so the first humans began to weave tales, stories of beings, sometimes heroic, sometimes mischievous, who brought fire to humankind, defying the natural order, or even the will of the gods. Across different lands and eras, these tales evolved, adapted, and traveled with the people who carried them. In Greece, Prometheus became the figure who stole fire from the gods, enduring endless punishment to provide warmth, light, and knowledge to humanity. In the islands of Polynesia, Maui tricked the fire goddess to gift flame to humankind, bringing both delight and peril. Native American tribes told of coyote or raven, figures who risked their lives to carry fire to humans. Despite the differences in culture, language, and geography, each of these stories shares a common heartbeat, a recognition of fire's transformative power and the courage required to bring it to the human world. As we explore these myths tonight, our focus is not just on the narrative itself, but on the atmosphere it created, the calm and awe that fire instilled in those who first held it. These were stories told around flickering flames, under starlit skies, after long hunts or days spent gathering food. They were tales meant to inspire, to instruct, and to soothe, just as our journey tonight is meant to do. Through a gentle, slow unfolding of history, myth, and prehistoric life, we will enter the world of the Firebringer together, tracing the path of sparks that became flames, and flames that became culture. By the end of this journey, you will have walked alongside the earliest humans, felt the tension and relief that fire brought, and understood why the Firebringer's story has endured for thousands of years. This is more than a tale of survival. It is a story of curiosity, daring, and the quiet brilliance of a single spark illuminating the vast darkness. And so, as we begin, let us lean back, allow our minds to wander into the shadowed forests and icy plains of prehistory, and listen to the whispers of a fire that changed everything. Before humans learned to harness fire, the world was a place of shadows, where the rhythm of life was dictated entirely by the sun, the weather, and the unpredictable presence of predators. Nights were long and unforgiving, stretching across the vast landscapes with no comforting glow to pierce the darkness. Imagine standing in the midst of a dense forest, the canopy above thick and impenetrable, letting only a few slivers of moonlight touch the forest floor. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl, or the snap of a branch could signal danger. Without fire, humans were forced to remain vigilant, retreating to caves or temporary shelters as dusk fell, waiting for the first light of dawn to venture out again. The cold crept into their bones, the dampness clung to their skin, and warmth was as fleeting as the brief sunlight that touched the earth during the day. Life without fire was a continuous negotiation with nature. Food had to be eaten raw, preserved only through drying or fermentation, and hunting was done in careful daylight hours. Imagine the labor of tracking game across frozen plains or dense forests, relying on skill, patience, and instinct, while the thought of nightfall remained an ever-present concern. Every shadow carried potential threat, and every sound demanded attention. Yet, in this harshness, humans developed an extraordinary awareness of their surroundings. They learned to read the subtle signs of the land, the tracks of animals, the murmurs of the wind, and the shifting patterns of clouds. Their senses were finely attuned to the rhythms of the natural world, and in this way, life without fire was not only survival but also a form of deep connection to the environment. Social structures began to emerge in response to this darkness. Early humans would gather in small groups for protection, huddling together for warmth, sharing knowledge of safe paths, and telling stories to pass the long nights. Without fire to provide light, eyes adjusted to the dimming world, relying on memory and shared experience to navigate the dangers that lurked beyond the edges of their immediate surroundings. Relationships were reinforced through cooperation, as survival depended on careful coordination, whether hunting in teams, foraging together, or keeping watch while others slept. This collaborative existence fostered bonds and understanding, laying the groundwork for culture and community long before the invention of flame. Yet, even within this careful balance, life was unpredictable. Sudden storms, freezing nights, and encounters with predators shaped every decision. Shelter was precious and often impermanent, consisting of simple caves, overhanging rocks, or constructed lean-tos from branches and leaves. Comfort as we know it today was unimaginable, and even rest came with a heightened sense of vigilance. Nights were measured not in hours of leisure, but in the patient observation of shadows and sounds. Hunger and cold were constant companions, pressing humans to develop strategies, adapt quickly, and remain resilient in the face of adversity. In these conditions, every small success, the safe capture of food, the construction of a stable shelter, the survival of a cold night, was a quiet triumph, a reason for relief and gratitude. The natural world, while beautiful, could be merciless. Rivers could overflow without warning, forests could hide predators and venomous creatures, and the seasons brought sudden shifts in temperature and availability of resources. Humans in this era were intimately connected to these forces, their survival dependent on careful attention and respect. The absence of fire meant that every interaction with nature required skill and patience, and every nightfall brought both fear and awe. Darkness itself became a teacher, instructing early humans in caution, observation, and the rhythm of life that was dictated by the planet, not human convenience. Within this shadowed existence, early humans developed imagination. Even in the absence of light, the mind sought to understand the unknown. The night sky, dotted with stars, inspired wonder, and the occasional lightning storm or natural fire from a volcano introduced fleeting glimpses of power that were both terrifying and captivating. It is here, in the combination of fear, admiration, and survival instinct, that the seeds of myth were sown. Stories began to form in the human mind, explanations for the lights and warmth they so desperately desired, tales of beings who could command forces beyond human reach, and legends that bridged the terrifying unknown with the promise of protection and guidance. Life without fire was both harsh and intimate. The darkness forced humans to rely on one another, to speak softly, to move carefully, and to find rhythm and safety in the patterns of nature. Even mundane tasks, gathering food, maintaining shelter, or navigating rough terrain, became acts of mindfulness, deeply connected to the immediate present. There was a constant awareness of mortality, a delicate appreciation for each day survived, and a quiet reverence for the forces that allowed life to continue. In this context, the eventual arrival of fire would not merely be a practical breakthrough, it would be transformative, reshaping not only the physical world, but the inner landscape of human thought, culture, and myth. And so, as we drift into the story of fire, let us first linger in the quiet of that world before its arrival. Picture the long cold nights, the deep forests and open plains, the careful movements of early humans in tune with their environment. Hear the wind rustling through leaves, the distant calls of predators, and the rhythm of footsteps on frozen earth. This is a world of darkness, of patience, of survival, setting the stage for the first spark, the first gift of light, warmth and hope, carried to humankind by the legendary Firebringer. Long before humans mastered fire, they were both fascinated and terrified by its sudden, unpredictable presence in the natural world. Lightning striking a dry forest, a volcano spewing molten rock, or a brush fire sweeping across the plains. These were glimpses of a power that was beyond human control, yet profoundly compelling. Imagine for a moment standing on the edge of a forest as a tree bursts into flame from a bolt of lightning. The crackle, the smoke curling into the sky, the sudden heat on the skin, and the eerie glow that pushes back the darkness. These early encounters were moments of awe, fear, and wonder, etched deeply into the human imagination. For our ancestors, fire was at once destructive and fascinating. It could consume their shelters, their food stores, and the creatures they relied on for survival. But it also illuminated the world in ways the sun never could, chased away predators, and revealed hidden details in the landscape. The flickering light of a natural fire at night was like a window into another realm, where humans glimpsed both danger and possibility. The unpredictability of these natural flames meant that humans observed them from a distance, learning slowly, carefully, and often reverently. Each spark that survived the wind and rain became a teacher, showing what fire could do and hinting at the power it might offer, if it could one day be harnessed. Stories undoubtedly began to emerge during these encounters. Around the edges of a wildfire, early humans may have whispered explanations for its sudden arrival. Perhaps it was the anger of spirits, the will of gods, or the work of powerful, unseen beings. The mind, searching for order in the chaos, began to frame these events as intentional acts. In this way, fire became more than a natural phenomenon. It became a force that needed to be respected, a presence that demanded both fear and reverence. In these quiet moments of observation, humans learned to predict its movement, to understand the materials that fueled it, and to use natural fire to their advantage when possible, perhaps by bringing smoldering embers back to a safe location to maintain warmth. These first interactions with fire were slow, cautious, and experimental. Humans observed how it spread, which materials burned quickly, and which resisted flame. The lessons learned were not just practical, they were also symbolic. Fire represented life and death, comfort and danger, creation and destruction. Its duality left a profound mark on human consciousness. This raw understanding of fire's nature became the foundation of countless myths, beings who could wield fire at will, who could bestow it on humanity, or who were punished for using it carelessly. It was in the tension between admiration and fear that the earliest stories of the Firebringer began to take shape, embedding themselves into the collective memory of human communities. Imagine sitting with a small group of early humans on the edge of a lightning-struck clearing. The air is thick with smoke, the scent of burning wood strong and unfamiliar. The flames dance erratically, casting moving shadows that play across faces filled with awe. Some watch silently, heads tilted toward the fire, while others speak in hushed tones, attempting to make sense of the phenomenon. Perhaps someone imagines a being responsible for this gift, a figure daring enough to capture the sun's warmth and the sky's power, bringing it to the people so that darkness could be held at bay. This blend of observation, imagination, and cautious experimentation marked the beginning of a human relationship with fire that would grow over millennia. The very first experiments with natural fire were likely simple and tentative. Humans may have carried embers from wildfires to ignite small controlled flames, using stones or dry grass as fuel. They learned which materials created lasting heat, how to shield the flame from wind and rain, and how to maintain it for warmth or protection. Every success was a small victory, a moment of triumph that transformed the night from a place of fear into a realm of light and comfort. The glow of these first human-controlled flames likely inspired stories told in whispers or quiet songs recounting the bravery, cleverness, or luck of those who first dared to keep the fire alive. Natural fire also shaped early human rituals and practices. The awe it inspired encouraged reflection, perhaps leading to the first sparks of spiritual thinking. Fire became a symbol of life, of divine energy, and of transformation. In some cases, humans may have interpreted the sudden appearance of fire as a message or a test, framing its unpredictable nature within moral or cosmological narratives. Over time, these interpretations formed the core of the fire-bringer myth, the notion that fire was not merely a natural occurrence but a gift, a force intentionally brought to humanity by a figure of intelligence, courage, or cunning. As humans continued to interact with natural fire, the boundaries between observation, experimentation, and imagination blurred. Every encounter reinforced the understanding that fire could be a tool, a friend, and an adversary all at once. The flickering flame illuminated not just the forest or the plains but the human mind itself, inspiring the earliest forms of storytelling, teaching, and myth-making. It is in these tentative first steps, watching, carrying embers, cautiously tending small flames, that the legend of the fire-bringer truly begins. This is the moment when humans, faced with the raw power of nature, began to dream of mastering it, of understanding it, and of inviting it into their lives in a controlled, meaningful way. Thus, the first encounters with fire were not merely events of survival, they were the beginnings of a human fascination with a force that was simultaneously beautiful, dangerous, and life-giving. These early experiences planted the seeds of myths that would echo across continents and millennia, shaping cultures, inspiring rituals, and leaving a legacy of wonder and respect. Fire in its rawest form became the teacher of early humans, showing them the delicate balance between fear and courage, chaos and control, darkness and light. And from this delicate balance emerged the stories of the fire-bringer, a being who dared to bridge the gap between humans and the divine, bringing the gift of flame into a world once ruled entirely by darkness. As humans moved through the long nights of prehistory, fire became more than a practical tool, it became a mystery force with its own personality and presence. It is no surprise then that across cultures and continents, stories arose about the beings who brought fire to humanity. These myths, while unique in detail, share striking similarities, revealing a common human fascination with the transformative, life-giving power of flame. They describe daring figures, sometimes heroic, sometimes mischievous, who defied danger, divine authority, or the natural order itself to grant warmth, light, and knowledge to humankind. These are the earliest legends of the firebringer, tales that shaped imagination and guided behavior in subtle, profound ways. In ancient Greece, one of the most famous firebringers is Prometheus. He is portrayed as a titan, a being of intelligence and foresight, who recognized that humanity suffered in darkness, cold, and ignorance. Against the will of Zeus, the king of the gods, Prometheus stole fire and gave it to humans, providing not only physical warmth, but also the foundation of technology, art, and civilization. The myth emphasizes both bravery and consequence. For his defiance, Prometheus was bound to a rock, where an eagle would feed on his liver daily, only for it to regenerate each night. The story presents fire as both a gift and a responsibility, a duality that captures the awe and danger early humans must have felt when encountering flames. Across the Pacific, in the islands of Polynesia, a similar figure emerges in the legend of Maui. Maui, often described as a trickster hero, approached fire with cunning and cleverness. In one telling, he wrestled the secret of fire from the fire goddess, enduring challenges and clever tests. Through his daring, he ensured that fire was shared with humankind, illuminating their nights and giving warmth in a world otherwise cold and unforgiving. Maui's story, like Prometheus's, balances the excitement of discovery with a gentle warning: fire is powerful, and its gift comes with both wonder and danger. Far to the east, in the Vedic traditions of ancient India, Agni, the fire deity, embodies the sacred and life-giving qualities of flame. Agni is the divine mediator, carrying offerings from humans to the gods, and representing the essential spark that sustains life. Fire, in this context, is both spiritual and practical, a bridge between the earthly and the divine. In rituals and hymns, Agni is invoked as protector, guide and giver of warmth and sustenance, reminding humans that fire is not simply a tool, but a living force that deserves reverence and careful attention. In the Americas, many indigenous cultures also tell stories of beings who brought fire to humanity. Among some Native American tribes, the coyote or raven plays the role of the firebringer. Coyote, often a trickster figure, steals or cleverly acquires fire, bringing it to humans so they can cook, stay warm, and survive in harsh landscapes. The stories blend humor, cleverness, and caution, highlighting that the gift of fire is precious and must be treated wisely. These tales emphasize respect for the natural world, showing that fire is neither to be feared entirely nor treated carelessly. It is a force to be understood, honored, and maintained. In Central and South America, similar narratives appear. The Aztecs and other Mesoamerican cultures recount tales of divine or semi-divine figures who introduced fire to humans, often through cunning or bravery. These stories frequently underline the duality of fire. It is essential for survival, but must be managed with care. Fire is simultaneously transformative and dangerous, a recurring theme that appears in myths around the globe, regardless of geography, language, or culture. What connects all these myths is a shared recognition of fire as a catalyst for human progress. Fire illuminates the night, extends the day, cooks food, drives away predators, and fosters community, but it also demands responsibility, foresight, and courage. The Firebringer is a symbol of those qualities, an archetype of daring, intelligence, and selflessness. By portraying fire as something gifted or stolen from higher powers, these myths reflect the awareness early humans had of their dependence on such a powerful force, and the awe with which they treated it. These myths also serve as gentle lessons, embedded in narrative form. Children listening to the story of Prometheus, Maui, or Coyote learned about risk, respect, and the consequences of human action. Adults reflected on their own interactions with fire, the ways they managed it, and the balance required to benefit from it without harm. Storytelling, especially in the presence of flickering flames, reinforced these ideas. Around the fire, humans shared not only warmth and light, but also knowledge, values, and cultural memory. In this way, the myth of the Firebringer became a cornerstone of both imagination and practical guidance. Interestingly, the variations in these myths also highlight the cultural nuances of fire. In Greece, it is tied to defiance and punishment. In Polynesia, to cleverness and cunning. In India, to spirituality and ritual. In the Americas, to trickery, humor, and survival. Despite these differences, the core theme remains the same. Fire is a transformative gift that enables human growth, and someone or something must bring it into the human world. This universality suggests a deep shared human fascination with the elemental force of fire, a fascination born from the very first encounters with natural flame in prehistoric times. As we imagine these stories being told under the glow of flickering embers, it is easy to see how the myths might have soothed the fear of darkness and cold. Fire became a companion, a teacher, and a reminder that even in the vast uncertainty of prehistoric life, there was hope, courage, and the possibility of transformation. The Firebringer, in its many forms, embodies this delicate balance between risk and reward, danger and wonder, darkness and light. By reflecting on these tales tonight, we can sense not only the power of fire itself, but the ingenuity, bravery, and imagination of early humans. These myths are more than entertainment. They are reflections of our ancestors' attempts to make sense of a world that was often harsh, unpredictable, and overwhelming. They remind us of the intimate relationship humans have always had with fire, and why, even thousands of years later, these stories continue to captivate, inspire, and soothe. Thus, the Firebringer is both a hero and a mirror, showing us what humans are capable of when confronted with mystery, danger, and the promise of transformation. Across continents and eras, the story is remarkably consistent. A being defies odds, overcomes danger, and delivers fire to humanity, shaping the course of civilization itself. And as we continue our journey into the prehistoric world, we will see how these myths intersect with survival, culture, and the quiet, glowing warmth that transformed the night into a place of life and possibility. The moment humans first controlled fire, life began to change in ways that were subtle, profound, and transformative. Fire was no longer just a distant phenomenon observed in the wild. It became a companion, a tool, and a source of security. Imagine a small prehistoric campsite under a dark sky, the silhouettes of humans moving gently around a central flame. The flickering light pushes back the shadows, casting dancing shapes across rocks and trees, creating a sense of calm and safety that had never existed before. Nights, once dominated by fear and the unknown, slowly became more manageable. Fire extended the day, providing light for tasks that could not be accomplished in daylight alone, and warmth that penetrated the cold grip of night. The practical benefits of fire were immediate and undeniable. Cooked food was easier to digest, and the nutritional value of meals improved, supporting stronger bodies and healthier communities. Meat, roots, and tubers that might have been difficult to consume raw became edible, opening new possibilities for diet and survival. The aroma of cooked food also likely had a calming social effect, encouraging humans to gather together, share meals, and strengthen bonds. Around the fire, storytelling and teaching could continue after the sun set, spreading knowledge about the land, animals, and survival strategies. Fire, in this sense, became not just a physical asset, but a cultural one, shaping the very foundation of human society. Protection was another immediate consequence of harnessing fire. Predators that once ruled the night were repelled by flames, their shadows retreating into the darkness beyond the reach of the hearth. Humans could now establish safe campsites, warding off danger and reducing the constant anxiety that darkness had once brought. Even the faintest glow of embers offered reassurance, creating a psychological comfort that was as important as the practical protection. In this way, fire acted as a bridge between the natural world's unpredictability and humanity's growing capacity to influence it. The fire-bringer myths, remembered and retold, reflect this duality: fire as both gift and weapon, warmth and force to be reckoned with. Fire also revolutionized social organization. Campsites centered around the hearth naturally became places of congregation, discussion, and communal activity. Tasks previously limited to daylight hours could be extended, allowing humans to prepare tools, maintain shelters, and engage in rituals or games long after sunset. This extended time fostered greater cohesion, reinforcing bonds between group members and creating a rhythm of life in which the fire was central. Each ember became a focal point for cooperation, care, and shared responsibility. Knowledge about how to start, maintain, and protect fire became critical, and those skilled in this craft were valued members of the community. The psychological impact of fire should not be underestimated. In a world once dominated by darkness, a controlled flame brought a sense of mastery over the environment. It inspired confidence and courage, allowing humans to explore new territories and survive in harsher climates. Fire's presence signaled hope, a promise that the night could be endured, that warmth could be maintained, and that danger could be mitigated. This sense of control likely contributed to the development of complex thought, planning, and creativity, shaping not only survival strategies but the very way humans imagined and interacted with the world around them. Fire's consequences extended beyond warmth, food, and protection. The ability to craft light also influenced early human communication and culture. Stories, songs, and rituals were now performed in the glow of fire, creating a shared experience that strengthened memory and identity. Tales of the fire-bringer, originally inspired by natural flames, were retold and elaborated around the hearth, embedding moral, practical, and spiritual lessons. Fire became a teacher, reminding humans of the delicate balance between power and responsibility. One careless action, a spark on dry grass, an unattended flame, could lead to disaster. The myths served as gentle instruction, teaching both respect for fire and understanding of its potential. Fire also enabled technological advancement. Heated stones could be used to process food or harden tools, smoke could preserve meat or signal over long distances. These innovations extended the capacity of humans to adapt, survive, and thrive. The flame was no longer a fleeting wonder, it was a resource to be managed, cultivated, and sustained. The first hearths were likely simple, small, and fragile, yet their presence marked a significant step in human ingenuity. Over time, these early innovations laid the foundation for more complex technology, settlements, and even agriculture, illustrating the profound influence of the fire-bringer's gift. Consider the image of a cold winter evening in prehistory. The wind whistles through barren trees, the frost clings to every surface, and the night seems impossibly long. Inside a small cave or lean-to, humans huddle around a carefully tended fire. The warmth seeps into their bodies, the light dances across their faces, and the stories of the fire-bringer are whispered once more. The flame offers comfort, protection, and a sense of continuity. Generations learn not only how to control fire but how to live within its light, gradually transforming their relationship with the natural world from one of constant fear to one of cautious mastery. Yet, with fire came responsibility. The myths of the fire bringer often emphasize consequences. Prometheus chained for defying the gods, Maui tested and challenged, Coyote punished for mischief. Early humans were aware, perhaps instinctively, that this powerful force could just as easily destroy as protect. Maintaining the fire required attention, care, and knowledge passed from one generation to the next. Its misuse could lead to accidental injury, destroyed food, or the burning of shelters and entire camps. This awareness of risk deepened the symbolic importance of fire, blending practicality with spirituality, and ensuring that the lessons of the fire bringer were internalized as both survival strategy and moral guidance. In every sense, fire reshaped the human experience. Nights became less fearful, diets improved, communities strengthened, and culture expanded. Fire was both a physical tool and a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and collaboration. The stories of the fire bringer capture this transformation, illustrating not just the act of bringing fire, but the broader consequences, how one spark can illuminate the mind, protect the body, and nurture the soul. As we imagine these prehistoric nights, the gentle glow of a hearth becomes more than warmth. It becomes a symbol of human perseverance, curiosity, and creativity, all sparked by the daring acts of those who first tamed fire. And so, as the flame flickers softly in the prehistoric darkness, we can appreciate the profound impact of the fire bringer's gift. It was more than survival, it was transformation. Fire turned the night from a place of fear into a place of potential, from cold and uncertainty into warmth and possibility. It shaped the course of human evolution, not only physically, but culturally and spiritually. Every flickering ember reminds us of the courage, care, and wisdom required to manage such a powerful force, and why the story of the fire bringer continues to resonate across millennia, quietly illuminating the human imagination. As humans grew more accustomed to fire, its role in their lives evolved beyond the practical. The flame became more than warmth or light, it became a symbol, a presence, and a sacred force. Holes in the flickering glow of a hearth, early humans began to sense that fire was alive in a way no other element was. It moved, it changed, it consumed, yet it also gave. The duality of fire, as both destructive and life-giving, fostered a quiet reverence, a recognition that this force deserved attention, respect, and care. In this recognition, fire became sacred, inspiring rituals, ceremonies, and stories that connected humans to each other and to the larger forces of the world. Consider the simple act of tending a fire, the careful placement of logs, the gentle blowing to encourage embers, the protection of a flame from wind or rain. These acts were small rituals in themselves. Each movement carried significance, for a fire lost could mean cold, hunger, or danger. Early humans may have whispered to the flames, offered small gifts, or silently observed the movement of the embers with wonder. These gestures mark the beginnings of ritualistic behavior, an acknowledgement that fire was more than an object, it was a presence to be honored. In this way, the practical act of maintaining a flame slowly intertwined with the spiritual and symbolic, blending survival with reverence. Fire also became central to the sacred spaces of early communities. Hearths were placed at the center of shelters and gathering places, symbolically representing the heart of the home or camp. The light and warmth of fire drew people together, facilitating storytelling, teaching, and communal reflection. Around the flame, humans could pass knowledge from one generation to the next, share experiences, and strengthen social bonds. In essence, fire became a gathering point for the mind and spirit, a place where human connection was nurtured and the mysteries of life were contemplated. The flame illuminated not only the physical space but also the imagination, inspiring tales of courage, cleverness, and the divine. Ritual use of fire extended beyond the hearth. In many cultures, fire was incorporated into burial practices, marking transitions between life and death. Flames were sometimes used to purify, protect, or honor, demonstrating an understanding of fire as a mediator between the natural and spiritual worlds. Even in prehistory, humans recognized the transformative power of fire, how it could alter the physical state of objects, change food, or signal intentions over long distances. In these acts, fire became both practical and sacred, a symbol of the invisible forces that shaped life, death, and human experience. The myths of the fire bringer themselves reflect this sacred dimension, In tales where fire is stolen or gifted, the act is rarely trivial. It carries moral, social, and spiritual weight. Prometheus's defiance of the gods, Maui's clever negotiation with the fire goddess, and Coyote's cunning theft of flames all emphasize that fire is precious, not to be taken lightly. These myths, told and retold by generations, reinforced the sacredness of fire, teaching humans to approach it with respect and mindfulness. Fire was no longer just a tool, it was a teacher, a guardian, and a symbol of the interconnectedness of life. Rituals involving fire likely varied across landscapes and communities, but they shared common threads. The careful tending of flames, the placement of fires in central locations, the observation of fire's movement and behavior, all carried meaning. Some communities may have kept eternal flames, ensuring that the fire never went out, symbolizing continuity, protection, and the unbroken link between generations. Others may have used controlled burns in specific patterns, perhaps as part of hunting strategies or agricultural planning, blending practical knowledge with symbolic significance. In all cases, fire's presence was elevated from mere necessity to a revered force, guiding both action and thought. Fire's sacred quality also influenced early art and expression. Cave paintings, carvings, and other artifacts often depict fire, flames, or the glow of light, suggesting that humans were aware of its symbolic power. Fire was a lens through which the world was understood, a medium through which humans could express awe, gratitude, and curiosity. It shaped the way humans imagined the world and their place within it, linking practical survival with spiritual contemplation. In this way, fire became a bridge between the tangible and the intangible, grounding early humans while allowing their minds to wander into wonder and reflection. The sacredness of fire also reinforced community norms and values. The stories, rituals, and careful practices surrounding fire taught lessons about patience, attention, cooperation, and respect. Humans learned that neglect could lead to disaster, but careful stewardship brought safety, warmth, and comfort. These early lessons were embedded in both myth and practice, creating a holistic understanding of fire as a force that required both skill and reverence. In this way, the Firebringer myth was not merely entertainment, it was a framework for living harmoniously with one of nature's most powerful forces. Imagine the quiet of a prehistoric night, the wind rustling through trees, a cold moon hanging in the sky, and a carefully tended fire glowing at the center of a small community. The warmth seeps into the body, the light illuminates faces and shapes in gentle motion, and the mind drifts into stories of the Firebringer, told softly around the embers. These stories, combined with the physical presence of fire, created a sense of safety, comfort, and sacred connection. They reminded humans that they were part of a larger world, one in which courage, intelligence, and care could influence survival, culture, and spirit. In many ways, the sacredness of fire laid the foundation for future human civilization. Ritual, symbolism, and respect for the natural world all began around the flame. Communities organized themselves, knowledge was passed down, and imagination was nurtured. Fire's glow illuminated not only the physical environment, but also the moral, social, and spiritual frameworks that would shape human societies for millennia. The myths of the Firebringer, told in whispers and songs, reinforced the significance of fire as a sacred gift, a transformative force, and a bridge between humans and the mysteries of the world. Thus, fire in prehistory was never just a practical necessity. It was sacred, central, and transformative. Its light guided survival, inspired imagination, and nurtured community. It connected humans to the natural world, to each other, and to forces beyond immediate understanding. And it was through the careful, reverent tending of fire that humans first began to understand their own capacity for wisdom, courage, and creativity. The very qualities embodied in the Firebringer. While fire brought warmth, light, and sustenance, it also demanded respect. The same spark that illuminated the darkness could quickly become a roaring inferno capable of consuming everything in its path. Early humans, acutely aware of this duality, understood that fire was not merely a tool, it was a force that required careful attention, knowledge, and restraint. The myths of the Firebringer reflect this delicate balance, emphasizing both the extraordinary gift of fire and the consequences of its misuse. Through these stories, caution and moral awareness were embedded into human consciousness, ensuring that the powerful force of flame was treated with reverence and care. In Greek mythology, Prometheus embodies the tension between gift and punishment. By stealing fire from the gods and delivering it to humanity, he defied divine authority in order to empower humans. Yet his defiance was met with severe consequences. Zeus condemned him to eternal torment, chaining him to a rock while an eagle feasted upon his regenerating liver each day. This dramatic punishment serves as a cautionary tale, highlighting the risks associated with challenging powerful forces, even with noble intentions. The story teaches that while fire can bring profound benefit, it is not without danger, and misuse or even boldness can have severe repercussions. Similar themes appear in other cultures. In Polynesia, Maui's theft of fire from the goddess often comes with trials and tests, emphasizing the need for cleverness, humility, and careful navigation of powerful forces. His daring actions are heroic, yet the stories often underscore that fire is not to be taken lightly. In some variations, Maui is injured or faces obstacles that remind listeners of the delicate balance between human ingenuity and nature's power. These myths, while engaging and sometimes humorous, carry underlying lessons. The gift of fire is transformative, but it is not without its risks, and respect for the source of this power is essential. Among indigenous peoples of the Americas, trickster figures such as Coyote or Raven often acquire fire through cunning, yet the stories also include warnings. Coyote may burn himself, face punishment, or inadvertently cause trouble while delivering fire to humanity. These narratives highlight the idea that even when intentions are good, careless or thoughtless behavior with fire can lead to unintended consequences. The recurring theme is clear: fire is both gift and challenge, and humans must approach it with attentiveness, wisdom, and respect. The natural dangers of fire reinforce these myths in practical ways. Uncontrolled flames could devastate forests, destroy food stores, and threaten shelters. The unpredictability of fire, its tendency to leap, flare, and spread, made it both fascinating and frightening. Early humans quickly learned that maintaining a flame required vigilance, patience, and knowledge. Stories of punishment and caution, like those of Prometheus, Maui, and Coyote, mirrored real-world experiences, encoding practical advice into narrative form. By framing fire as both sacred and potentially dangerous, myths guided behavior, encouraging humans to approach it responsibly while also appreciating its transformative power. These cautionary tales also had psychological value. They created a framework in which humans could safely explore fire's potential while remaining aware of its risks. The dramatic punishments meted out to fire-bringers served as a narrative boundary, reminding listeners that fire was not a force to be taken for granted. Around the hearth, early humans internalized these lessons, learning through stories and observation alike that success with fire depended on skill, care, and respect. In this way, myths served as both entertainment and education, shaping behavior in subtle but profound ways. Fire's dangers extended beyond immediate physical harm. It symbolized the consequences of hubris, recklessness, and defiance. The firebringer, whether punished by gods or tricked by circumstance, became an archetype of the fine line between courage and folly. Early humans, navigating dark nights and harsh climates, were acutely aware that mismanaging fire could have life or death consequences. Myths emphasized that even acts of heroism or ingenuity carried weighty responsibility, reinforcing the moral dimension of fire use. Beyond storytelling, early rituals likely reinforced these lessons. Fires were carefully maintained, monitored, and protected from wind, rain, and stray sparks. Elders may have instructed younger members on the importance of vigilance, while minor mistakes could result in immediate correction or gentle reprimand. Over time, these practices merged with myth, creating a culture of careful stewardship, where fire was both essential and sacred, and the consequences of negligence were clearly understood. The stories of punishment and caution also highlight an essential truth about human development: risk is inseparable from progress. Fire enabled humans to cook food, extend the day, and protect themselves, yet it demanded knowledge, patience, and courage. By facing and respecting fire's power, humans gained not only survival skills, but also a sense of agency and understanding of natural forces. The Firebringer myths capture this duality, illustrating the rewards of bravery, ingenuity, and care, while also reminding us of the inherent dangers of overstepping boundaries. Even today, the lessons embedded in these myths remain relevant. They remind us that every powerful force, natural or human-made, carries potential for both benefit and harm. The Firebringer, punished for daring acts, serves as a timeless symbol of responsibility, teaching that wisdom, respect, and careful action are required to navigate the transformative forces of the world. Early humans, by encoding these truths into story and ritual, ensured that the delicate balance between gift and consequence would guide generations long after the first flames were mastered. Imagine the quiet of a prehistoric evening. The wind rustles the branches outside, the night is deep and cold, and a carefully tended fire burns steadily in the center of the campsite. Around it, early humans move with care, whispering stories of the Firebringer, reminding one another of both the power and the responsibility of the flame. In these moments, myth, ritual, and practical survival merge, teaching lessons about courage, respect, and balance. Fire, once a terrifying natural phenomenon, has become a companion and a teacher, illuminating the night and shaping the human experience. Through these stories of punishment and caution, the Firebringer remains both a hero and a reminder. Fire is transformative, enabling growth, survival, and culture, but it is also dangerous, demanding respect, vigilance, and wisdom. The myths encode these truths gently yet powerfully, ensuring that humanity learns not only how to harness fire, but also how to live in harmony with it. In this delicate interplay between gift and consequence, humans discovered the enduring value of responsibility, courage, and reverence, lessons that echo across the millennia. Once humans had mastered fire, its presence became woven into the fabric of daily life. The flickering glow of a hearth was no longer a rare spectacle, it became central to survival, comfort, and social cohesion. Imagine a small prehistoric campsite at dusk. The sun has dipped below the horizon, the chill of night begins to settle over the land, and the first human-controlled flames begin to glow softly in the darkness. Around this fire, humans gather, moving with calm purpose, their movements guided by the light and warmth that fire provides. In these quiet moments, daily life unfolds, shaped by both necessity and wonder. The first and most obvious transformation was in warmth and shelter. With fire, humans could extend their range into colder climates, sleep more comfortably, and survive longer winters. Stone or wooden shelters could now be warmed, making caves and constructed dwellings far more hospitable. Fire allowed humans to rest without the constant anxiety of nightfall, creating a sense of security that had previously been impossible. The warmth of the flames seeped into their bodies, calming muscles stiffened by cold and soothing nerves heightened by fear. In this way, fire did more than sustain life. It made life livable, transforming the daily experience from one of constant vigilance to one of cautious comfort. Food preparation was revolutionized. Cooking with fire made meals safer, more nutritious, and easier to digest. Meat could be roasted, roots and tubers could be softened, and bitter or toxic elements could be neutralized through heat. This transformation in diet supported stronger, healthier bodies and allowed communities to expand into new territories. Cooking also became a communal activity. Humans gathered around the fire, tending to the meal, sharing tasks, and talking in soft voices as they worked. The rhythm of chopping, stirring, and monitoring the flame created a gentle, meditative atmosphere, reinforcing both social bonds and the calming effects of the hearth. Fire also enabled early humans to craft tools and enhance their technological capabilities. Heated stones could shape harder rocks, soften animal hides, or assist in the construction of primitive shelters. The mastery of fire allowed experimentation, innovation, and the slow accumulation of knowledge. Every spark that survived, and every flame that was successfully maintained became a lesson in ingenuity, problem-solving, and patience. These daily acts, repeated over generations, transformed not only the practical aspects of life, but also the human mind, fostering creativity and complex thinking in ways that the pre-fire world could not. The social and cultural impact of fire was equally profound. Around the hearth, humans could converse long after the sun had set, telling stories, sharing experiences, and passing down wisdom. These narratives, some factual, some mythic, served to educate, entertain, and instill values. The story of the fire-bringer, for example, was likely told in hushed, reverent tones as the flames flickered, its lessons absorbed as both entertainment and guidance. Rituals, customs, and the transmission of knowledge all revolved around fire, making it not merely a tool, but the central pillar of social life. In this sense, fire shaped the emotional and intellectual world of prehistoric humans as much as the physical. Protection remained another critical aspect. The presence of fire allowed humans to ward off predators, illuminating the shadows where danger might lurk. Wolves, big cats, and other nocturnal hunters were driven back by flames, and humans could rest with greater confidence. Even the faint glow of embers offered psychological reassurance, transforming nighttime from a realm of fear into a space of calm observation and contemplation. The fire became a guardian, silently offering safety, while also teaching humans the value of careful attention and respect for its power. Fire also transformed human mobility and settlement patterns. Campsites could now be established in locations previously considered too cold, too dark, or too exposed. Humans could carry embers with them, maintaining small flames to provide warmth and light during migration. This increased mobility allowed early humans to explore new territories, expand their foraging and hunting grounds, and adapt to diverse climates. The ability to transport fire safely became both a practical skill and a ritual act, reinforcing the sacred dimension of flame in everyday life. Even leisure and recreation were influenced by fire. The gentle crackle of flames created a calming soundscape, while the dancing light inspired observation, imagination, and reflection. Early humans could engage in quiet play, storytelling, and artistic expression long after dusk. Shadows cast on cave walls or rocks may have inspired the earliest forms of visual storytelling, with humans experimenting with shapes, movements, and patterns in the glow of the fire. In this way, fire nurtured creativity, provided entertainment, and strengthened bonds between group members, reinforcing its centrality to daily life. Fire also encouraged cooperation and shared responsibility. Tending a flame required vigilance, adding fuel, protecting it from wind or rain, and ensuring that it did not spread uncontrollably. These tasks were distributed among group members, fostering a sense of duty, trust, and interdependence. Through the careful management of fire, early humans learned essential lessons in teamwork, foresight, and planning. The daily rhythms of fire tending mirrored larger life lessons, teaching patience, resilience, and the importance of balance in all activities. Even in moments of quiet observation, fire influenced thought and emotion. Watching flames dance and shift, humans may have experienced a meditative calm, a gentle awareness of the cycles of nature, and a sense of connection to forces larger than themselves. The light of the flame illuminated not only the physical environment, but also the mind, inspiring reflection on life, survival, and the mysteries of the natural world. It is in these subtle daily interactions with fire that the magic of the fire-bringer myth becomes tangible, reinforcing both practical knowledge and emotional resonance. Thus, daily life in prehistoric communities was deeply transformed by fire. It extended warmth, enhanced nutrition, enabled technological innovation, fostered social cohesion, provided protection, encouraged mobility, nurtured creativity, and instilled values of cooperation and respect. The fire-bringer, whose story first inspired humans to seek and master fire, became not only a mythic figure, but a symbol embedded in the rhythm of everyday life. Each flickering flame reminded humans of the delicate balance between mastery and humility, utility and reverence, danger and comfort. As we imagine these prehistoric evenings, with fire glowing softly at the center of a campsite, the human mind can almost sense the calm and focus that accompanied daily life. The crackle of embers, the warmth seeping into the body, and the gentle flicker of shadows all contribute to a sense of peace and continuity. Fire transformed the night from a realm of fear into a space of opportunity, reflection, and connection. Through it, humans discovered the potential for mastery over nature, the nurturing of creativity, and the development of culture, transformations that continue to shape our world today. By the time humans had firmly integrated fire into their daily lives, the figure of the firebringer had become more than a myth. It was a symbol, a reminder of humanity's connection to powerful forces, both natural and divine. This archetype, whether Prometheus, Maui, or Coyote, served as a bridge between practical survival and spiritual reflection, reminding humans that mastery of fire carried profound responsibility. The Firebringer's legacy permeated prehistoric life, influencing social structures, rituals, art, and collective imagination, leaving an imprint that would endure for millennia. Symbols of fire appear across ancient art and artifacts, from cave paintings to carved representations of flames. Early humans, captivated by the movement and glow of fire, translated its patterns into visual expression. Fire often represented life, warmth, and protection, but also danger, transformation, and divine power. It became a central motif in the symbolic language of prehistoric cultures, reminding communities of the gifts they had received and the respect owed to the forces that provided them. In these depictions, the Firebringer's influence is evident. The flame is not just a practical tool, but a sacred guiding presence. The Firebringer also shaped rituals and ceremonies. Fire was central to religious or spiritual observances, often symbolizing communication with the divine, purification, or renewal. Eternal or carefully maintained fires became focal points in communal life, reflecting the belief that fire connected humans to higher powers. In many ways, these rituals reinforced social cohesion, teaching younger members of the community about both practical skills and cultural values. The myth of the Firebringer, told and retold during these ceremonies, reinforced the sacred nature of flame, embedding lessons of caution, respect, and responsibility into the very rhythm of daily life. Beyond rituals, fire influenced the development of language and storytelling. The narratives surrounding the Firebringer encouraged imagination and abstract thought, allowing early humans to explore concepts such as foresight, consequence, and cleverness. These stories often contained multiple layers of meaning. They entertained, educated, and instilled values simultaneously. The ability to weave myth, practical instruction, and moral guidance into a single tale illustrates the profound impact the Firebringer had on cultural development. Through these stories, fire became a symbol of knowledge itself, illuminating not just the physical world but the human mind. Cultural practices surrounding fire also evolved. Techniques for maintaining embers, constructing hearths, and safely transporting flames became codified traditions, passed down through generations. These practices reinforced community bonds and collective memory. They were intertwined with stories of the Firebringer, whose daring actions inspired caution, ingenuity, and reverence. Fire thus became both a physical and cultural tool, shaping not only the survival of communities but their identity, knowledge, and shared values. Even in language, idioms and metaphors derived from fire reflect the enduring influence of these early myths. Fire came to symbolize enlightenment, inspiration, and transformation. The act of bringing fire became a metaphor for innovation, courage, and the spread of knowledge, concepts that trace back to the earliest stories of Prometheus, Maui, and other firebringers. In this way, the myth transcended time, embedding itself in the ways humans understand creativity, progress, and responsibility. The legacy of the Firebringer is also evident in the development of leadership and social roles. Those who could start, maintain, or control fire were respected for their skills and knowledge. The ability to provide warmth, protection, and nourishment became markers of wisdom, courage, and authority within early communities. The Firebringer, as a mythic figure, exemplified these qualities, serving as both role model and moral compass. By emulating these traits, humans learn to organize, cooperate, and survive in increasingly complex environments. Through all these dimensions, art, ritual, storytelling, language, and social organization, the Firebringer remained central to prehistoric culture. Fire was no longer merely a survival tool, it had become a guiding symbol, shaping human thought, behavior, and imagination. The myths conveyed essential truths about risk and reward, power and responsibility, and the delicate balance between human ingenuity and the forces of nature. They taught that every spark carried potential for both creation and destruction, and that wisdom lay in understanding how to navigate that duality. As we imagine prehistoric nights, the legacy of the Firebringer is tangible. Around softly glowing fires, humans gathered, shared stories, and transmitted knowledge. Shadows danced on cave walls, embers crackled gently, and a quiet sense of reverence pervaded the camp. Every act of tending the fire, every whispered tale, and every gesture of care reinforced the lessons embedded in the myth. The firebringer, though a figure of legend, lived in every ember, shaping both the physical and cultural landscape of early human life. Ultimately, the story of the firebringer is a story of transformation, of humanity's ability to take a raw, dangerous force and turn it into a source of survival, culture, and inspiration. Its legacy endures not only in the myths and rituals of ancient peoples, but also in the symbolic and practical ways fire continues to influence human life. Fire remains a teacher, a protector, and a symbol, reminding us of courage, responsibility, and the enduring human desire to illuminate the world, both literally and metaphorically. As we approach the conclusion of our journey through prehistoric life and mythology, it becomes clear that the story of the firebringer is more than a tale of sparks and flames. It is a reflection of human courage, ingenuity, and curiosity, a symbol of how our ancestors sought to understand, master, and coexist with the natural world. In every culture, whether Greek, Polynesian, or indigenous American, the firebringer embodies the delicate balance between daring and responsibility, risk and reward, curiosity and caution. Through these stories, early humans not only learned to survive but also to reflect on their place in the vast, often unpredictable world around them. The myth of Prometheus, chained yet undaunted, teaches resilience and foresight. His daring act of bringing fire to humanity demonstrates that progress often requires courage and defiance, even when the consequences are severe. Maui's clever theft from the fire goddess illustrates intelligence, patience, and the value of wit in overcoming challenges. Coyote the trickster reminds us that even mistakes or playful mischief carry lessons about responsibility and balance. Across these narratives, the firebringer emerges as an archetype of human potential, brave, inventive, and attentive to the consequences of actions. These qualities, encoded in story, guided prehistoric humans as they navigated the challenges of survival and community life. Fire itself, while practical, is a mirror of human ambition. Its warmth, light, and transformative power parallel our desire to explore, create, and understand. Yet fire also demands respect, teaching that power, if mismanaged, can become destructive. The myths of the firebringer gently reinforce this lesson, reminding us that mastery is not simply about obtaining a gift, it is about cultivating skill, patience, and mindfulness. In a way, every ember carried a story, every flickering flame a moral lesson, guiding early humans toward balance between creativity and caution. Beyond survival, fire shaped imagination and culture. The glow of a hearth illuminated more than faces and shelters, it illuminated minds. Storytelling, art, and ritual flourished around fire, fostering community, reflection, and shared understanding. Humans began to contemplate not only the immediate needs of warmth and sustenance but also the larger mysteries of life, the cycles of nature, the changing seasons, the constancy of the night, and the unpredictability of existence. In this meditative space, the firebringer was both teacher and companion, encouraging humans to observe, interpret, and imagine. The psychological effect of fire should not be underestimated. In the darkness of prehistoric nights, a small flame represented hope, safety, and continuity. It created a sense of calm and stability, a focal point around which humans could gather, rest, and reflect. This psychological comfort extended to physical well-being, as warmth allowed deeper sleep, rest, and recovery from the exertions of hunting, gathering, and daily survival. In this sense, fire transformed the very experience of time and space for early humans, creating pockets of tranquility within an otherwise harsh and unpredictable world. The firebringer's legacy also extends to human ethics and communal responsibility. In learning to tend fire, humans learned cooperation, patience, and foresight. They discovered that individual actions had consequences for the entire group. A neglected flame could endanger a camp, while careful stewardship ensured safety, warmth, and nourishment. These lessons, encoded in myth and practice, became foundational to human social evolution. Fire, as both gift and test, fostered awareness, mindfulness, and shared responsibility, qualities that continue to shape human societies today. Philosophically, the firebringer teaches us about transformation. Fire converts raw materials into usable resources, illuminates darkness, and enables progress. Likewise, humans, through ingenuity, courage, and learning, transform their environment and themselves. The myth reflects an early understanding of cause and effect, of action and consequence, and of the delicate balance between risk and reward. Every spark carries the potential to change life. Every flame embodies the duality of creation and destruction. Through this lens, the story of the Firebringer becomes a meditation on the human condition itself, the desire to seek, to know, and to shape one's destiny while remaining aware of limitations and responsibility. In reflecting on these lessons, we can imagine a prehistoric night once more. A small camp, hidden among rocks and trees, is alive with soft movement and the gentle crackle of flames. Humans, warmed by the fire, share stories, tend to meals, and watch shadows dance on cave walls. Every spark is a teacher, every ember a symbol of care and vigilance. The Firebringer's presence is felt not only in myth but in every careful act around the hearth, tending the flame, protecting it from wind, and sharing its light with others. In these quiet moments, humans engage in a meditation that blends survival, reflection, and imagination, finding meaning in the interplay of light and darkness. Ultimately, the story of the Firebringer reminds us of our enduring human qualities. Curiosity, courage, ingenuity, and responsibility have always guided us. From the first controlled sparks of prehistoric fire to the myths that explain and honor that power, we see a reflection of ourselves in every tale. These narratives, gently told around flickering flames, continue to resonate because they speak to fundamental aspects of being human: the desire to explore, the need to understand, and the wisdom to respect forces greater than ourselves. As we close this journey, the Firebringer stands not just as a mythic figure of the past, but as a symbol for the present and future. Fire continues to shape our world, and its lessons remain relevant. Progress requires courage, responsibility, and respect. Transformation is always possible, yet it carries consequences, and even in darkness, warmth, light, and hope can be found. In honoring the Firebringer, we honor the human spirit itself, the spark of curiosity, the courage to act, and the wisdom to tend the flame. As our journey through the story of the Firebringer comes to a close, it is important to pause and reflect on the quiet, enduring impact of this myth. Fire, once a miraculous discovery, became a cornerstone of human survival, culture, and imagination. Yet it was never simply a tool. It was a teacher, a companion, and a symbol of our ancestors' courage and ingenuity. In every flickering flame we see not only light and warmth, but also the embodiment of human curiosity, persistence, and the desire to shape the world around us. The Firebringer reminds us that even the smallest spark can illuminate vast darkness, both literal and metaphorical. Consider the prehistoric night when the world was silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves and the soft crackle of a fire. A small group huddles around a carefully tended flame, exchanging stories, observing its dance, and learning its subtleties. The warmth seeps into their bones, calming tired muscles and restless minds. The fire is more than protection. It is a focal point for thought, reflection, and connection. It provides a gentle rhythm to life, a nightly reminder that even in a vast and often intimidating world, humans can find comfort, guidance, and inspiration. The myths of the Firebringer, retold in whispers and songs, serve as both caution and celebration. Prometheus, Maui, and Coyote embody the dual nature of fire, transformative and dangerous, powerful and delicate, inspiring and instructive. These stories provided early humans with frameworks for understanding cause and effect, risk and reward, and courage and responsibility. They were not merely tales for entertainment, they were lessons encoded into memory, ritual, and social practice. Around the flickering hearth, each story reinforced the idea that wisdom is born of careful observation, bravery, and respect for the forces that shape life. Fire's influence on culture extended far beyond survival. It nurtured imagination, creativity, and social cohesion. From storytelling to art, from ritual to daily care, fire was central to prehistoric human life. The act of tending a flame encouraged patience, cooperation, and mindfulness. The soft glow of embers inspired contemplation, meditation, and a gentle connection to the natural world. Fire shaped not only what humans did, but how they thought and felt, fostering a sense of shared identity, continuity, and wonder. In this way, the Firebringer was not merely a figure of myth, it was a presence in the rhythm of daily life, guiding both thought and action. Even the dangers of fire carried lessons that have endured across generations. Its potential for destruction taught caution, responsibility, and respect. The myths serve as reminders that mastery requires care and attentiveness, and that even great gifts come with responsibility. Early humans learned to balance curiosity with vigilance, daring with prudence. In these lessons, the Firebringer continues to inspire. It shows that progress, innovation, and growth are possible, but only when accompanied by awareness and respect for the forces at play. Reflecting on the legacy of fire, we see its influence in modern life as well. The warmth of a candle, the comfort of a fireplace, and even the glow of an electric lamp echo the original lessons of the Firebringer. Fire became a bridge between survival and culture, between necessity and imagination, between the physical and the symbolic. It shaped human evolution, not only in practical terms but also in shaping thought, emotion, and communal life. The story reminds us that every advancement carries both opportunity and responsibility, and that curiosity, courage, and care are timeless virtues. As we imagine the last flicker of embers in a prehistoric campsite, we can appreciate the quiet beauty of the Firebringer's gift. The flame, gently fading into the night, leaves warmth in its wake, a warmth that extends beyond the body, touching the mind and spirit. It encourages reflection on the human journey, how we learn to survive, to create and to imagine, how small acts of bravery and care can ripple across generations, and how every spark of curiosity can ignite transformation. Fire, in its dual role as provider and teacher, symbolizes the eternal human desire to understand, adapt, and illuminate the unknown. The story of the Firebringer then is ultimately a story of hope and continuity. It reminds us that humanity's greatest achievements often arise from curiosity, courage, and respect for the forces that shape our world. Each flickering flame carries lessons from the past, guiding us toward mindfulness, collaboration, and resilience. The myth encourages us to reflect, to learn, and to honor the delicate balance between power and responsibility. In tending our own fires, whether literal or metaphorical, we connect with the enduring human spirit, a spirit that seeks warmth, light, understanding, and connection. And so, as the last embers settle and the night stretches on, we leave the world of the Firebringer with a sense of calm, continuity, and wonder. The flame has taught patience, the myths have taught wisdom, and the quiet moments of reflection have nurtured a gentle understanding of our shared human journey. In the soft glow of firelight, we are reminded that even in darkness, humans have always carried the light, within themselves, within their communities, and within the stories that endure across time. The Firebringer's legacy is eternal, flickering softly in every act of curiosity, care, and courage.